Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jonathan here. Wow, so I was just watching this video that Ramsey just put out, and they talk a lot about jobs and inflation, and I think that a lot of the things they're saying just doesn't really correlate with the data that we are getting. Over the past couple of weeks, we've done real deep dive on some of the jobs and inflation data that has come out. So I wanted to do a quick response video to their video about jobs and inflation. So, without further ado, let's get right into it.
A Wall Street Journal article: more workers get side hustles to keep up with rising costs. Many young Americans say they're interested in part-time work. The October jobs report shows the number of Americans working part-time jobs in addition to a full-time job has increased 6% year over year to 4.5 million people. Nearly 3/4 of workers said they need additional work to make enough income due to inflation.
Okay, so I think that is a really good point that he brings up, that there are a lot of people right now that are working more than one job, and that is supported by some of the job numbers that we have gotten. So if we look at this graph that was put together by Zero Hedge on Twitter, checked out their Twitter. I highly encourage it. They have some really good stuff there. When we got the jobs report in the beginning of December, we actually got two surveys, the establishment survey and the household survey. And pretty much the difference between these two surveys is that one survey takes a survey of the actual company themselves. So they'll call up the company and say, how many job positions do you have on payroll? And then that's how they take their survey. Whereas the household survey only takes their survey by tallying how many people actually have a job. They don't really care so much about how many jobs that one person has. And as you can see from this graph, that since March of 2022, almost 2.7 million job openings in the establishment survey, but in the household survey, there's only been 12,000 jobs, which is virtually almost nothing compared to establishment survey. So this is a pretty good indicator that we are starting to see that we are seeing people take out more than one job.
Employers are planning to bump up salaries by an average of 4.6% next year. This is the most since 2007. This is according to a new Willis Tower Watson survey of 1,500 plus companies. A separate study from the Society of Human Resource Management Research Institute found that most of the 1,500 HR professionals said it would take 8 to 10% pay raises to retain workers. What does that mean? It means that this great resignation, this high volume of people leaving jobs to get more pay is going to continue, which means that inflation is going to be very stubborn, which means Jerome Powell, our feckless Fed chair, otherwise known as a moron, and his policy to raise interest rates to create higher unemployment isn't going to work.
So then he moves on. Ken moves on to make the point that because of economic projections, that we aren't going to see inflation come down to the downside. And even though these economists are probably very smart people, I don't necessarily think the data is on their side on this one. If we take a look at the recent JOLTS report, or the job opening and labor turnover report that we got in November, one of the things that we see is that job openings increased 437,000 for the month. But then out of that 437,000, 215,000 of those job increases was from accommodation, food services, or leisure and hospitality. That made up about almost 50% of the job increases. And one of the things we have to remember is that most of the jobs in that sector are usually minimum wage, or very close to minimum wage jobs. And even if those people did get a five, let's just say they got a 5% pay raise, they still would not have the kind of disposable income that actually causes inflation to grow. One of the things we have to remember is that there's two different ways you can spend money. You can either spend it in a discretionary manner or in a non-discretionary manner. So if you go and you get $1 and use it to buy groceries, that's considered a non-discretionary expense. Whereas a discretionary expense would be getting your money and buying, I don't know, headphones or something like that. And discretionary expenses tend to have a 7x multiplier effect on inflation, whereas non-discretionary expenses only have about a 3 to 4 multiplier in terms of inflation. Even though he's saying that, oh, we're going to see all this wage increase, it might not really. All that wage increase, especially for people who are making close to minimum wage, will probably just go to paying their living expenses. So paying for rent, paying for food, paying for utilities, paying for gas, that kind of stuff. So almost like an inflation buffer. Then another thing we have to look at as well is just the job openings and where that is trending as well. So this is some data that I've pulled from the St. Louis Fred, and when we take a look at job openings for a total job non-farm job openings, this has been trending up ever since the beginning of ever since the Fed did slash rates to 0% and started to pump money into the economy. But we have started to see this uptrend start to tick downwards. And even though this goes to October, we did see another rise. Again, that rise was mostly driven by leisure and hospitality. And again, like what I said, that those people don't necessarily have the kind of disposable income to really keep this inflation boat going much longer. Then just then just a couple days ago, we actually got a report. So the Philadelphia Early Benchmark Revision of State Payroll Employment Report that covers Q2 of 2022 actually found out that there's a significant difference in 33 states in the District of Columbia compared to current state estimates, Bureau of Labor Statistics current employment statistics report, and that they only found that there was actually 10,500 net new jobs created during Q2 of 2022, even though some of the states said that there was 1.2 jobs created during that same time frame, and the BLS data said that there was 1.1 jobs created in that period. So they actually predict a flattish job growth throughout that period of Q2 2022. And I think because of all of this, we may not actually be seeing the kind of job growth that everyone thinks that we are seeing, and included Ken here. So even though he makes this point that, oh, well, if wages keep going up, then inflation's going to keep going up, that is true. But the problem is that a lot of these economists, a lot of times they are wrong. I mean, we had the economists come out and say, oh, well, the S&P is only going to fall 5-10% this year. And I think at the worst, the S&P was down 25% at one point of this year. So this is just a quick reaction video I just wanted to make regarding this. So that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.